Order, we can take that back, thank you. Vanessa's not gonna make it here today, so I'm gonna be flying solo, so if you need anything else, let me know, I'll work harder at it.
Would you like the mic?
What's that? Is it on? Okay, don't sound it on.
Yes, it is on. Say something.
It's on.
I'm pretty sure it's on.
Okay, I didn't know, it was on mute, what?
Oh, it was on mute. I was gonna say I can give you this one if you like.
I didn't have a little light on mine.
I think it's on, I can hear it. Yep,
Should I sing?
it's on, yep, it's on.
All right, now that we got that settled. First, I'll call the meeting to order. I need approval of the agenda. We don't really need to vote on it if anyone has any additions, corrections. Otherwise, I will assume that we got it? Yep. All right. The agenda today. We really don't have the minutes at this point, so we're gonna dispense with that. So at this point, I'd like to let people know we do have time for the public to speak, to make presentation up to 3 minutes. We do not have anyone signing up or requesting today, unless there's someone I'm missing here. But be aware that that is available opportunity for people, for the public to join us in some way. The subcommittee reports, I think we're gonna take those out until we haven't had them for a while, and as we look at redoing our bylaws, we're looking at all committee structure, and so right now we don't have a committee report. So we're moving quite quickly here, and so now we're gonna have an end of the year presentation. Lila and Torri will be making the presentation. So.
Chair and committee members, at last month's meeting, can you all hear us? At last month's meeting, we discussed the end of the year summary. We will be presenting, our plan is to present at the April 10th meeting. Today we present a draft of the committee end of the year summary. We're gonna actually start with that one.
Oh, no, sorry, with the work plan. I think it's on the
Okay, that's fine. All right, sounds good. Sorry, we'd initially talked about going over the work plan first and then the summary, but we will go over the summary first. We have created this draft that compiles really the work of the committee over the last year or the year of 2023. We're including in this EAC current membership and vacancies, the purpose of the end of the year summary, the roles and impact on the council, EAC achievements and wins in 2023. We want to acknowledge challenges and areas for improvement, key initiatives to address moving forward, membership and support, and then highlighting again the EAC's impact on the council as a whole. This is our current membership and vacancy list. All the folks on the list here are active members. And at this time, we have 6 at-large seats open, and then 3 geographic seats that are also open. We closed our application window on February 27th. We've received 22 applications. We're in the process of looking over resumes and creating a panel to interview folks and setting up those interviews. We're also scheduled to have the chair appoint folks at the April 10th Committee of the Whole meeting. That's of course if we can get through all of these stages before then, but we are on the calendar for that. All right, so the purpose of this presentation is to review and reflect on the progress and achievements of the Equity Advisory Committee throughout the year, identify and celebrate successful initiatives and wins that have positively impacted the Metropolitan Council, acknowledge and address areas of improvement and failures to learn from or setbacks and enhance future strategies, outline our next steps and our strategic goals for the council based on the insights and recommendations provided by the EAC, We want to highlight the importance of the EAC's impact on decision-making processes within the council, provide a comprehensive overview of the strides, challenges, concerns faced by the council and the EAC, and then emphasize the significance of membership diversity and stakeholder support in advancing equity initiatives. And lastly, foster collaboration, feedback, and engagement from stakeholders to drive continuous improvement and progress within the council relative to equity and just general business of the council. EAC's impact, we brought it down to six areas. So the role of the EAC in promoting equity of the council is to provide valuable insights and recommendations on equity-related matters. Our voice here and feedback on projects has actually created a lot of change. There have been a lot of feedback and advice that was given that wasn't thought of initially and did make impact. So that's the role of this committee. Advocates for fair and just policies and practices within the council, and then raises awareness and educates stakeholders on equity, diversity, and inclusion issues. The importance of EAC impact on the Met Council, it drives initiatives for promoting equity within the council, enhances diversity and representation in decision-making processes, and of course, this also, this committee incorporates the voice of multiple communities, and experiences, life experiences, and other important characteristics. Fosters a culture of equity and belonging within the council. Some of the wins and achievements from 2023, the EAC gave feedback and recommendations on a total of 19 Met Council presentations presented by Human Resources, different equity units or divisions work brought forward by them, affirmative action recommendations, transit, environmental justice initiatives, small business, and much more. The EAC has helped to enhance the affirmative action dashboard with feedback on visual aspects and data representation. There was a lot of feedback on really simplifying the data and making it so that anyone can understand what they're looking at. The EAC made a request to conduct an equal opportunity audit that resulted in the small business equity audit that will improve business contracting opportunities to MCUBs and DBEs. That's currently in the process right now. A vendor has been chosen, and we are actively looking at how to gather data for this project, and then that will eventually lead to more opportunities for MCUBs and DBEs. The EAC also made a commitment to providing perspective to enhance equity at the council in multiple other areas, and that also is highlighted. Some of the challenges that the EAC has faced, finalizing and approving of the bylaws. We submitted a draft last spring. It's still in the process of review and approval. It's gone through a number of different drafts. We've incorporated feedback, and we are now hopefully in the final stages of having that approved. Improvement in attendance and loss of members. Because we haven't had strong attendance, we haven't been able to approve things like the agenda or not the agenda, excuse me, the notes and other types of attendance enhances obviously the interactions and also the feedback, so attendance is a big deal. Also a lack of participation from departments project that work heavily in equity. I think that it's not a lack of participation, but maybe a lack of understanding where to come to the EAC and what stages they should come to the EAC, and so we're working on changing that as well. A lack of implementation of advice on presentation given to the EAC, and so some of that follow-up loop that you all brought up, I think it was last year, in previous years regarding what happens to that advice, how is it being implemented. That's an area that we're looking at as well, but we acknowledge that that's a challenge. Acknowledging challenges and areas for improvement continued. Enhancing the role of council members to provide recommendations and advice that support the Equity Advisory Committee. One of the things that we're looking at is how we start to move some of the feedback and advice that is given here up to the council by having the 4 committee members assist with that process. What does that look like, and how do we do that? Because that's one of the methods that we can utilize to move some of this advice, especially at a policy level. Establishing a dedicated project coordinator within staff to better support the EAC's initiative. What this actually means is just growing our internal staff and being able to dedicate portions of this work to a dedicated person or people, and that way we can better enhance the support of the EAC. Provide equity implementation unit staff with support for the EAC through adequate resources and enhanced training. That goes for us too, the folks who are supporting the EAC. What can we do to better enhance our learning and development in order to better support the EAC? Changing the internal perception of the importance and the impact of the EAC, and that's what I touched on a minute ago, where we need to really work on changing the perception of maybe importance or when to come to the EAC, and that's work that we're committing to as well. Is how do we start having those conversations more often? Who do we need to go to? How do we put this into maybe a structured calendar? We've looked at that as folks are moving around to multiple committees. How do we ensure that they also stop by the EAC, and when should that happen? All right. Key initiatives to address moving forward. And so we've created a draft work plan for 2024, which we'll bring that up right after this presentation as well. And so we've brought it down to 4 main topics that are important to the council, that have been important to the EAC, and that have been, I think, trends or I think we've had multiple presentations come through the EAC in these 4 areas here. And so we brought it down to the Regional Development Guide, the Imagine 2050 plan. This guide sets the plan for the region for the next 10 years. And there's opportunity to provide feedback in this space. And so we want to continue to bring folks here, continue to open up space and opportunity for the committee to contribute to that work. The small business equity audit, there's going to be opportunity there as well. We're setting up listening sessions where the EAC can absolutely participate in this space as well and provide feedback in those listening sessions. The affirmative action plan, that's been a big topic at the EAC, and we'll continue to bring work, work related to the affirmative action plan to the EAC in 2024. And then number 4 is enterprise equity. Coincidentally, the team that supports the EAC is also in charge of enterprise equity. And so we're looking at ways to enhance our partnership and collaboration and bring folks in from the EAC to help us really strategize and put together a larger enterprise equity strategy and all of the work that goes underneath that.
Excuse me 1 second.
Sure.
Can you, we have one more page.
Yeah, I just want to have her define enterprise.
What's that?
Have her, Mr. Chair, identify enterprise.
Enterprise equity is organizational equity, and so if you think of the 5 divisions, each division, they have their own line of business where enterprise equity is kind of that overarching umbrella. It's what it is, enterprise equity should tie into the overall organization strategy.
Mr. Chair, can you just name like several components
Yeah, absolutely. So enterprise equity looks at business structure, it looks at the region, and it embeds the work that we do or the goals that we come up with for the organization and ties it to what's happening in the region.
Okay.
I mean, that's essentially the core of enterprise equity. So everything we do here at the council should eventually lead to the changes that we want to see in our region. That's the goal, at least.
Okay.
That's good. All right. Membership and support, engaging in recruitment efforts to bring new members on board for the Equity Advisory Committee to broaden perspectives and expertise. We just went through a recruiting session or season, I guess, and we were able to reach out to the committee to have them participate in helping us recruit and communicate that these positions are open and available. And because of that, we do believe that we were able to achieve, or we set a goal of 20 applicants, and we had 23. But 22 are viable applicants. And so because of that collaboration and that partnership, we were able to recruit as many as we did in such a small window of time. Strengthening support for the EAC through the development of comprehensive support building retreat to foster collaboration and strategic planning. We are planning a retreat, which will probably be rolled out early summer. And we're hoping to help build just more support and development within that space at that time. Creating a transparent feedback mechanism to gather input from EAC members and stakeholders for continuous improvement. We want to hear from you. We're trying to figure out ways where we can engage and get feedback more often versus just meeting, for 2 hours once a month. So how do we start receiving feedback for how the EAC itself is run, and then start to incorporate that in the way we do our business. Collaborating with colleagues internally to broaden the reach and impact of the EAC's initiatives and advisory. That responsibility falls on the folks who are supporting the EAC, also council members, since we have that internal connection. Just being able to figure out ways to collaborate with our colleagues and reroute them, bring them to the EAC as much as possible. And then to improve ongoing attendance. What can the committee do to better attendance, to help better the attendance? Not just for us as individuals, but our other folks who are our colleagues, so. Highlighting EAC's impact on the council. So the EAC has provided feedback for regional development. You all have provided feedback on equity and scenario planning. Those are the things that will be put into the plans or the regional plans for this entire region to use as a guide. So that's a big deal. The pilot for private property, the grant program that was brought to us by ES, also the U.S. Water Alliance Equity Network, and Equity Opportunity for Environmental Services. Those are the folks who also came from ES to present here. They were also able to take in that feedback. 2022 Service Equity Evaluation, Met Council proposed Federal Transit Authority, the FTA, and Environmental Protection Agency triennial disadvantaged business enterprise goals for 2024 to 2026. The committee also contributed or impacted that body of work. And then also the Metro Transit Safety and Security Plan. The EAC also provided feedback that impacted that work as well.
Then I just have one thing to say. So I've reached out to all of these projects individually, and they're starting to send me information back of where you impacted in those areas. So it won't be a presentation, it'll just be an information item, and I'll send that to your emails once we have all those responses gathered up, so that you guys can actually see how your feedback was impacted. Sorry about that.
All right, and then the last page in the And the update is the summary. And this is a summary of where we are. The end of the year summary provides a comprehensive overview of the EAC's activities, achievements, and challenges throughout the year. The EAC is currently filling vacancies to strengthen its membership base for diverse perspectives and expertise. We're also really going through our membership list and looking at attendance. We're sending out attendance letters to help. We want folks to be here. This committee can't be a committee without people here. And so we're in addition to filling vacancies, we're also taking a look at attendance on the membership list. The EAC has successfully contributed to impactful initiatives and achievements in promoting equity within the council. The EAC plays a crucial role in providing recommendations, advice, accountability to support the council's equity initiatives and decision-making processes. To address challenges, key initiatives include enhancing support through training, mentorship, and community collaborations, as well as changing perceptions to increase engagement and impact. Continuous improvement to implement dedicated support, such as project coordinator, to strengthen the EAC's impact on the council's equity goals. And this is the last page. We would like to have your feedback. I also want to just thank Torri for all of the hard work that she's put into this. She's been gathering a lot of the feedback that you all have given. She's listened to us as well and really worked hard at putting this together. It is a draft, and so we will be updating it again. We'll just be, we'll be tightening it up, but we'd like your feedback so that we can enhance it and give the message to the folks at the committee of the whole that you all want them to have.
I'm ready for the
All right,
feedback.
Bill.
Oh, okay, thank you. A question here. Are we on the council agenda
Yes.
Yes.
regularly?
Not regularly.
Is there any way we can be on the council's agenda on a regular basis?
We can check into that. I'm not quite sure of the process, and I don't. Yeah, we can check into that. I'm not sure.
I just feel that
yeah.
it's important that we are, because
Yeah.
a lot of the presentations and the feedback, I think it's helpful for the council to have that as we're meeting and we're moving forward.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if it's not reported regularly, it becomes lost
Yeah.
in space.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. One of the ways that we're thinking about incorporating that is how do we enhance the relationship between the council members on the EAC and how the feedback and what happens here moves up to the council. So I think there's a number of ways that we can report to the council of the whole, so the larger piece. One of them could be being on the agenda, and then the other one is how do we move it through what resources we already have as well. So
And they might have feedback for us.
yeah, absolutely.
Which is helpful as we're moving forward. The second one that I'd be interested in if we have some time after Michael's questions is what the responses were of why people weren't attending if you spoke to them or had any communication. I'm
Yeah.
interested to know what kinds of barriers that people had. Either they lost interest, or I know we had a disabled member who got a ride here, and if her ride was no longer available, was there a possibility of creating like a hybrid meeting so that she could Zoom in if she couldn't get a ride into?
Those are great questions. So I think the general feedback that we got, so when we reach out to folks, sometimes they're like, no, keep my spot, I wanna be there, but they're not coming. So we don't know completely. We do know that some people are saying that, post-COVID, there's burnout, and so there's this burnout factor. But then also we meet on a random Tuesday from 6 to 8, and it's in person, right? We're hoping that through the bylaw change that would allow for online meetings. I don't know about hybrid because there are logistics that are involved in that, but we're hoping maybe through that opportunity we might be able to open for, people to attend online, right? We don't know what that looks like yet, but the feedback has been mostly, they either want to continue to participate and they don't show up, or my apologies, that's my phone.
I do that
Like,
too.
touch once.
Yeah, I do that.
It's usually
No, I
pick up the
turned it off.
kids from here, drop the kids off there. So yeah, that's the general feedback, but I don't know, Tori's also reached out to folks, I don't know if she's.
Well, if it is a reach out, like Lila said, they said only one person that I know for sure said they wanted to still be on the committee.
Yeah.
And they haven't shown up, not even last year. So it's kind of difficult to understand where people stand with the committee. But at the same time, when we were going through all the bylaws change and things like that, and some of the issues that people wanted to talk about wasn't really, what the presentations were giving them. So just from my outside looking in, maybe just their perspective on what the committee was when they joined may have changed. That's what I would say. And I will also say that, it is at a random time, 6 to 8, especially in the wintertime, is hard for some people, with the weather not being so giving and everything. So, but we can definitely check in with those individuals and maybe try to understand some more concerns that they may have and prompt that question moving forward. And make sure that we do understand when we do have the new members coming in, that we ask them if there are some barriers that you might have, let us know and we'll see how we can accommodate you as much as possible.
My comment is, I don't think it's random. I mean, we meet at the same Tuesday every month, at the same time and at the same location.
Well, we mean like in general, like a third Tuesday of the month from 6 to 8. To some people, it's like, why do you meet? Like, a lot of people ask us, why do you meet
that late?
Yeah, why do you meet that late on a Tuesday night? So not random as in like it changes on a regular basis, but random as in like it's the third Tuesday of the month. People ask us why do you meet?
It's not really
Yeah.
I would say it's not really the date of the third Tuesday, but really the time.
Yeah.
So we're one of the latest committees that meet. I don't think there's any other committees that really meet this late in the day.
Yeah.
So, and then we do understand that, some people may have family issues that's going on
Yeah.
that we can't control. We try to keep that communication piece open, and we want to understand why individuals are not coming to the meetings. So when somebody is out, we just ask you to tell us like that you're not going to show up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't tell us when they're not showing up. We get to the meeting of the day and then they don't show up. So we think that they're coming, but they're not telling us that they're not going to be able to come. If somebody was to tell us they was coming, usually I can look at some faces in here and say like, you guys usually tell us like what you guys have going on, because you guys are regular, y'all coming, y'all here, y'all showing up. But for those individuals that's not showing up, they don't tell us that they're not showing up. So it's kind of like they're just dropping off of the meetings, but they're not really telling us why. And that can go for council members as well, not just committee members.
Yeah.
Before I said Councilman Carter, but I just want to add just a couple of things. One is that because it's 6 to 8, I can't get the shuttle back to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
The shuttle ends at 7, and so I'm then I have to either drive then or take a lift, and I like the shuttle. I just, it takes me downtown to downtown, 2 stops. I take the train, but it's
see
too many
that.
stops, so
Yeah.
that does affect me, the later start. The second is that the development committee and these other committees that do have public participation, people show up to a number of their meetings and are earlier than this. And dinner's wonderful, but I don't think it's a necessity.
Exactly.
But maybe other people have voted, but I'd rather eat home later than and start here earlier. Just my 2 cents in it.
Yeah.
Councilmember Carter.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. I did contest also the random time. I don't think it's random either. And in fact, pre-COVID, it would have been the time that most community meetings were expected. But I think something did happen during COVID where we reset our agendas. People were accustomed to being home and found they liked it a little bit. So I have two questions. One is, I know that the bylaws are set to be approved. What do the bylaws say about attendance?
Yeah.
Because we need to make certain that we're acting on what the bylaws say. And if the bylaws don't say anything, they should, because we should not have the expectation that we're gonna hold on to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into infinitum if they're not
Right.
showing up.
Yeah.
We need to act on that. And then the second thing is, why do I do this? I have two things lined up and I forget the second. Well, anyway, the second one I think is about the time.
Yeah.
Should we be reconsidering that time? And if people around the table here would prefer that it be earlier, you know, this is critical because we're bringing new people
Yeah,
on
yeah.
and we've given them time.
Yeah.
You know, if in fact we're gonna swear them in, or not swear them in, but appoint them, they need to know the time.
Yeah.
So we should settle on whether we're going to move toward a potential change there.
Mr. Pacheco?
I do remember when I was orientated to this, people did notify what time. You know, can you make a 6 to 8 o'clock meeting? And that was something I had to consider before I accepted joining. Couple things. To Anita's point, she had talked about the council meetings and being able to do that. Should that be included in here as an acknowledging a challenge, an area for improvement, versus us just having a conversation here, but make it tangible, that is something that we want to work on over the next year? That it was a challenge because it's not the first time it's come up in our meetings. We've actually submitted a proposal about how we thought our work should flow and it go to the council. And I think we're looking, you actually gave a presentation to the council on that. So adding it to this would give it some true meaning around something that we want. Mr. Chair, the last thing that I have is when I was listening to this and in your explanation of the enterprise piece, enterprise equity, I couldn't discern if we were impacting equity within each of the divisions. You know, I mean, I could see that there were some divisions there, but it didn't seem intentional.
Yeah.
I didn't see parks up there, for example. Were we doing things with parks and enterprise and examining what they're doing and being very intentional about those operations? I saw human resource there. I saw, you know, affirmative action as a part of human resource. So it would be nice, or I don't know how you do it in this document, but if there was like a page that said EAC's impact in parks, EAC in water management, EAC in transportation, and then what impact we had in those categories or with those divisions.
Chair and committee members, I appreciate this comment because, yes, so right now the way the EAC functions, the work that you do impacts the entire council. It impacts all 5 divisions, right? Because the presentations come from every single division, from multiple departments, so there is impact. I think what's really important is that the council has a very decentralized process to equity. And so we are working on figuring out our best structure moving forward. We know that equity is successful when it's top down, you know, obviously informed by the people in the divisions, and there's partnerships and collaborations, but at this time it's very decentralized and the divisions do function like they're their own business lines. And so this enterprise equity goal is to figure out a way to create more strategy on top and to unify the organization and to start looking at equity as building an equity ecosystem. Councilmember Carter asked about our equity organization. at the last meeting, and our equity organization doesn't have you can't define it because it was just randomly, what feels like it was just randomly kind of created outside of the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity. And so there's a lot of work in this area. It hasn't, just putting equity strategy on here is very, very broad, but there's a lot of working pieces that are gonna be part of this work, and that will all come to the EAC, so.
And also, I just wanted to add something. When you said that comment in the beginning about the different subject areas, those were just specific to the presentations that came. So we can request a presentation from Parks and Parks when it comes to equity. But I just want to clarify that those were just the presentations that came to the council and the divisions that came to the council last year. But I definitely understand, and when you do get that information that I'm gonna put together for you as far as where did the feedback come from and what departments did they come from, if we get enough by then, we can include some of those in this presentation.
Okay.
But, we'll do what we can with those responses and we'll give them to you as they come in.
As in the council itself, in regards to like a standard report, I would tell you that every council meeting that I go to has something to do with equity. And it's whether the blue line extensions here is how does that impact equity. It's not called out, but it's a part of almost everybody's presentation. And I think there is a way to highlight that. And I like the idea to bring in some specific examples. But I often refer to it as just if we did what we do in climate. Climate has a separate strategy, separate thing, and they're also measured, and we seek to have all of our metro cities have some climate report, and which we can help them do down the line here. But I think climate, everyone just understands it, and I think they did at one point maybe understand how equity would cross everything, but now it seems so focused that we don't get the bigger picture. We get how we did and even on the green line, we can tell you how many people were hired, how many people from a diverse background, but that's just one piece of what goes on within the area and what they're required. And so one of the things when you mentioned having either it's a standing report, I mean, we do on a quarterly basis report things out, whether it's to the federal requirements around, affirmative action or purchasing or whatever. So if we could tie it into almost like a quarterly report that highlights one of the big things, but also kind of reinforces that our existence, if you know what I mean. So it's not just here we are again, but it's part of something bigger that we know we're going to do. We're required to do certain things. So anyway, yes.
I really appreciate the thoughts that are circulating here. And I think what we're hearing is that we have issues, that have been challenges for us. And it's not as though we stand alone. The council has concerns around the whole issue of making certain our equity initiatives are tied together. And of course, that's where we're heading. How we get there is going to be important. And I think that a part of both the challenge and the opportunities would be aligning our efforts to see equity across the council with the council's own efforts to ensure they're tied together. So as we write that challenge/opportunity, because I think that may be the piece that is missing here. It is what are the opportunities of this work of the council for the council. And for our community. And it is, I think, a very big part of that is seeing the aligned efforts across the entire organization through a window, and we can help to reflect that, as a equity advisory council back to the council. That can be the ongoing discussion. As we look at when we move to the work plan, I think there's some opportunities there that may become apparent as to how, I'm not going to call it a report, but as to how a comment from the equity committee could accompany some report such as the chair has suggested coming forward, as they do, as the equity team has seen material that is then moving forward to the council, that may be an opportunity for us to pair that work, show up, and that is also an opportunity to show the importance of this work.
Yeah.
But I would rather, as we think about the report itself, I would rather not just acknowledge those challenges, but also, and areas for improvement, but also show the opportunities,
Yes.
in that next reflection. And I think there's some work we can do there.
You were-
First, I wanted to highlight a couple things that I think I really wanna thank you for putting in the report. The first is the number of issues we addressed and the work that's ongoing to get that feedback about how what we addressed was actually incorporated, so I just really appreciate that. And then I do have a suggestion that as long as this is an opportunity to see the council, I would suggest also leaving the council with an ask or an opportunity to be engaged. And in particular, I think the ask would be around council participation. We do have our 2 council members here, but we have seen historically that the council members that are assigned to the EAC do not participate regularly, and I think that's really a missed opportunity for us to collaborate more so than going to the council meetings. I think the council members that are assigned need to come here. I would also suggest asking the council members that represent the districts of which EAC members are precincts, I know it's like a 2-to-1 ratio, that they just take a little time informally to get to know each other so we can understand the priorities in that region that we're representing. In both directions, what are the priorities around equity and what are the regional priorities that are showing up in those districts. And the last is I think more broadly, I would love to see the council feeding us their policy priorities and agenda so that we are focusing on the things that are gonna be the most impactful to our region. Because I think, I appreciate how the equity is or is not organized inside the council. And it is important for us to be doing that work of thinking about our organizational structure, but my deepest hope is that we're having a broader impact in the region. And so I would really love to see how the council is wrestling with those priorities and what its agenda items are.
Okay, excuse me, one more
Yeah.
question here.
Yeah.
I love all those suggestions.
And
Yeah.
for me, listening to the summary and knowing where we've been, I can only ask this question. Is this the outcome we want to achieve? To be lackluster as an equity committee, which then means status quo the way it is, then we've achieved that, right? So then I think that's the question we have to answer, because it doesn't have to be this way. Right? Right?
Yeah.
Those people who are not committed to be here need not be here. If we change times to a daytime where I know as a principal I can't make it, I have to back out. I can't continue to hold the committee hostage by sitting in a seat that belongs to the community and not being able to participate.
Yeah.
And so the question I think we all need to answer as part of this committee is, if this is an outcome we want to achieve, then we have achieved it, then we're well on our way, we play this again, we repeat, and basically this is it.
Yeah.
Right? But if we wanna go further and not be a committee that have no oomph, no ability to move the work, then I say, let's celebrate. But I believe we can do more. I believe we can do more. And once we get ourselves to a place where we expect to do more, people will come on board and wanna do more.
Agreed.
Right? So, that's my take.
Okay, we have a work plan to do what, okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, my whole thing and my reason for being here is because I see equity, or I would like to move equity, diversity, inclusion, equal access to be shalls in all the language and all the work that, and not may. And if you, because may's a wimp word to me. You may be inclusive. You may look at diverse. You may be equitable. And I think, for me, I'm always pushing for shall be inclusive, shall be equitable, shall have equal access. And when I think of the council and the work of the whole of the Metropolitan Council, I don't think everybody does that, has that in mind. They're all in that may thinking. How do we push it to shall?
Mr. Chair, just to add to that, and really what everybody's saying here, yeah, you know, when you talk about equity, fairness, equal access and opportunity, it just can't be willy-nilly. Because, you know, there are people that died, bled, marched, suffered, I mean, in the worst kind of way, to get us to the point to say, this has to be real and for all of us to have equal access and opportunity. There's just no other way around it. So when I see it disjointed, you know, this one's got an equity definition, this one's got we're changing the equity director, and we're doing all these different things. It's to keep things the way they were before those things came on board. And quite honestly, it's been 60 years since equity was defined in law. And here we are redefining it again versus the administrative application of it. The only other thing I want to say is that when I sit at this table and people come and give presentations, I look at what's going on in my district, I see what's kind of happening universally within the region. I don't see an avenue for policy recommendations that we can bring forward to the council itself for consideration. And I think maybe that's gonna come up in the work plan. But I think, you know, what Michael was saying, what you're talking about, Shell, Anita, and all the conversation, it's hard to sit here when I hear all of the stuff that have been thrown at us over the year and cut the issue and say, wow, we need a policy recommendation to put on the table that would really help my district, would help the region out, but we don't have an avenue for doing that.
Yeah.
So maybe it's gonna come up in there, but we should strongly consider having the ability to bring policy recommendations. And that's not a hard thing, it doesn't have to be accepted, it's just if the recommendation is brought forward. That would be a good thing.
All right, I think we're ready to move on to the work plan, and there'll be time for questions on that as well. So I really appreciate the conversation even now. I think it's really heading the right way. I appreciate the presentation and gives us something to work from. So thank you.
Awesome. All right.
I just wanna say one more thing,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm gonna update the presentation and I'm gonna send another draft out with your recommendations and the things that you said. And if you guys could reply to the email, just to let me know what you think about it, how you feel, so that when we go to April 10th, we can move it forward then.
You'll be sending that out then?
Somewhere next week to you guys, so that you can review what you guys recommended and see what we can change in that presentation to enhance it.
So by the 27th?
I would say, let's give me till the 1st.
Okay.
I'm moving right now.
And the presentation is I'm sorry, what's the date of,
The 1st, what's the date of the 1st?
no, what's the date of the meeting, the presentation?
April 10th? Yeah. So by the 1st, you guys should have it, make a recommendation. Huh? Oh, you guys gonna receive it by email? Oh, okay.
All right, sounds good. All right, we're gonna move forward with the work plan draft. The work plan is similar to the presentation that I just went over. You know, there's this introduction, but then it outlines those 4 main areas to focus. Now, committee member just mentioned that there isn't a vehicle or an avenue to make suggestions, you know, for policy, which I do agree, there's a lot of opportunity to be able to make suggestions and provide feedback on policy that impact the region. One of those ways is the regional development guide, and that's why we included it. There's a lot of policy that goes into that. The folks writing it are, you know, planners / policy makers within the council here, or they create policies that go into this regional development guide. And that's part of the reason why we're trying to reroute folks here so that you have that opportunity as well. Same thing with the small business equity audit. This audit, again, is gonna impact the way small businesses have access to certification and other opportunities that are related to business. Affirmative action plan, you know, that's also been important. That impacts hiring at the organization. And I wanna just share that, in my opinion, that the organization, if we're looking to make impact in the region, the organization needs to function in a way where it can deliver on those changes in the region. And, you know, part of that work includes, you know, affirmative action, but then also, you know, the hiring of you know, a workforce that can do this work. And so that also will be routed through here, and those plans will continue to come through here. There have been multiple presentations, but we'll continue to route them here.
Can I,
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just not to, I get your point on the 2050 plan, but I can just think off the top of my head a number of different things that may change within the system in the next few years that would throw any 2050 plan in a loop. For example, by 2040, it'll be a majority minority community. What does the regional plan do in terms of policies and taking into consideration that reality? Secondly, Donald Trump may get elected president and he wants to bring in an authoritarian regime. You know, what does it do for us in terms of those things? So I get it, but there may need to be ways of interjecting policy sooner to respond to things that happen that may not be documented in a 2050 plan. I mean, I'm sure if something like that happened, people are gonna say, oh, we need to get back to the drawing board and see what people have to say. But I was thinking a little bit more frequent than that.
Councilman Carter.
So I appreciate your comment, and certainly no plan is a good plan if it can't provide for the ability to be flexible and adjust to change. To that, I would say we have an opportunity to see what has been that regular 10-year planning process that mobilizes community plans across the region to accomplish what we say are our goals. So, you know, there's a whole lot there that applies to the vision for the region, the goals that we are creating in order to achieve that region long time, because you gotta have a vision.
Yes.
You know, you've gotta have that. And if you've gotta have a vision, you've gotta have some kind of plan as to how you get to that vision over the long term. And that long-term plan has to incorporate shorter-term plans. So this is a whole process that should provide for some flexibility, and which we have an opportunity to see and to provide some comment on and input to. Just seeing the process, I think, in and of itself is worthwhile.
Yeah.
And then making those comments as we see,
Yeah.
you know, what that process is. And it's not a short-term thing that we'll be doing either, you know?
Well, we
I
just
hope that we'll be in it
lived
for
through
the
that
long
real
term.
time with COVID.
COVID,
And who could have predicted that? Who could have
Right,
predicted people
right.
home? And so it's changed,
And
it's still
that's
changed the
right.
workforce today. There's 3 days a week, 3-day work weeks, and I mean, all of these things that happen like that.
That's
Yeah.
right, that's right, that's right.
And I don't think any plan will will see everything.
No, I
but-
understand that, and I just didn't want it to rest on our input on the 2050 plan, but somehow a mechanism that trigger our input
Oh,
on,
I see.
you know what I'm saying?
Right, oh,
On the
sure.
shorter term adjustments that
Yeah.
need to be.
Yeah,
That's what I was
Yeah,
looking
that
at.
makes sense.
yes, and chair and committee members, these are just buckets.
Mhm.
So this is not just a
Mhm.
only, regional development guide, like only, these are the only 4 things that can come through the committee. These are just kind of buckets or priorities. We'll also be focusing on, other priority areas, but these are kind of our big ticket items, I guess,
Okay.
that will come through in the year. But yeah, there's absolutely gonna be opportunity to look at other things, and as Councilmember Carter said, what good is a plan that, is just rigid and can't be changed? We have to be able to obviously pivot as an organization, we have to be able to respond to what's happening in the region, what's happening, around us, what's impacting our communities. And also even outside of, once the regional development guide is done and produced, from 10 year, from when it's produced to the next time where teams come together to create a new one, there's work that needs to be done in between there to prepare for that next one. And so there's a lot of opportunity within these spaces, but these are just our big items that we'd like to have come through the committee.
Okay, yeah, Councilman.
I appreciate the focus, for us too, because just in looking at these things, we could have a majority of work.
Yeah.
We have a majority of work that can be done. And of course, there are gonna be other things that we want to see. So as we put a work plan together, then we should also be thinking about what are those other things that we need to see or would want to see as they move forward.
Yeah.
So I know that we'll have flexibility to do
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And
We do
appreciate
have
I don't-
individuals reaching,
Okay, we
Mr.
gotta get
Chair,
this
I
work
know,
plan
I
out
just
as well.
don't wanna hype on this, but maybe what I'm thinking is, at the point in that 10-year plan where there is some kind of evaluation of work achieved towards the plan.
Yeah.
That was here, we're not missed in that. Our voice matters when the evaluation of the work done for the first 5 years or the first year, somehow that's brought to us, we take a look at it, bring our knowledge
Yeah.
and have some input with what adjustments are gonna be made so that the plan can continue to move forward for the 10-year period. Because it seemed like here, and I know you say not limited to, it just seemed like, if reading this, is that we're gonna have one shot to have something to say about 2050, the 2050 plan, but are we going to have some input, intentional input on any evaluations of implementation
Yeah.
each year?
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That, and that, I think, is a very key thing, because
Yes.
if this is a focus for us, it should not just be for a year.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And then 2050 happens. And that isn't how the plan is managed either.
Yeah.
So,
That's right, but we haven't had anybody come back to us for the 2040 plan to have
yeah,
discussions about
Yeah.
what's happening right now.
right, right.
Or the 2030 plan, nobody's come back to us
Yeah.
about progress made, adjustments that are happening, and that's all I'm saying.
And I'm sorry to continue this, the last thing, I
It's
have
all
to
right.
say, the last thing I would have to say about that is we also haven't had it as a focus of our work.
Yes.
So that would make it a focus of our work and would require that we would have that kind of opportunity to revisit.
Exactly, exactly. So something should be included as a bucket,
something that's.
periodic
Oh, I think
reviews.
it will be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And this is, again, this is, there will be more opportunity to do additional work. Also, keep in mind, this is for 2024, and so as we move forward and things change, the work plan, there's an opportunity to update the work plan as well, so. Yeah. Alright. And then,
gotta scroll down.
Yeah, so here, it's here, it's coming up.
Yep, it's coming up. We added the meeting dates. There's been a lot of confusion about meeting dates on the calendar. These are 2024 meeting dates. We also want to make an announcement that if you have any other calendar invitation on, just take it off. These are the dates where we meet. Add them to your calendar and remove anything else, so. Except for the ones that we set for the third Tuesdays of every night, so.
You have some, I was looking at my calendar, there's some committee meetings, and they're not all, some of them are on the third Tuesdays, some of them are on the fourth.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to identify the dates and.
Yeah,
So
so
those
for
you can
this
toss.
meeting, this meeting I'm showing, but it's the committee meetings that are not all the same, that are on my
And
calendar.
the committee's not functioning.
The subcommittee meetings?
Yeah, the subcommittees,
Yeah, the subcommittee
Good
meetings
word.
are paused for now. Yeah,
okay,
Yeah.
so I can take them off,
yeah, you can remove them.
okay.
Those will change because, once the bylaws are updated and we can meet online, we can talk about, what the subcommittees look like and what days work best. I think they were previously set up based on the people who were in those subcommittees at the time, who aren't here anymore.
Is
A
there,
lot of them aren't here.
is there a standing committee meeting anymore, or that's not happening?
No, we have a co-chair meeting, yeah.
Okay,
Ready?
yes,
Okay, alright, sounds good. Okay, so next part is, again, those buckets, the subject area. If we can get there.
like you're winding it like.
Clicking.
Oh, this is a PDF.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
that thing has to be a PDF.
Alright, so, subject area, so the Regional Development Guide, Imagine 2050. Some of the subject areas that will come through the committee will be brought to us from the Equity Task Force. And then under that, there's a lot of work happening regarding environmental justice. So the environmental justice framework will hopefully make its way here. There's been a draft presented, they're scheduled to go to the committee of the whole soon. Community center engagement for Imagine 2050, there's been, as you all may know, there's been quite a bit of engagement on that. And so that, plan can come through here as well. Just presentations and updates, also anti-displacement framework, there's a committee that comes together with a number of internal and external stakeholders who participate in that, and there's a lot of work happening in that group. That framework as well will come through. And then also, the council has hired a new tribal liaison who's working with the folks who are developing the 2050 plan on a land acknowledgement. Also, an engagement cohort, expo, anti-racism and economic justice trust, that's the work that is being led by our office. Also the racial equity dividends index, and then the council strategic plan. The next category, presentation month, these are just when we're, based on the calendars that we've looked at, some of the knowledge that we have on when certain things are happening or being presented, we're estimating that this is when they'll come to the Equity Advisory Committee. So we're trying to also just understand when all of the presentations are happening, when important dates are happening, and trying to just reroute people to come here around that same time so that feedback can be incorporated. The departments who will be presenting in this first category will be Community Development and Environmental Services, and then the Anti-Racism and Economic Justice Trust and Anti-Racism and Economic Justice Trust, the Racial Equity Dividends, I repeated that. That is being led by our office in partnership with the Center for Economic Inclusion, and that will be brought forth by us.
So, let me just ask a question,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
So, obviously, the plan that's going to be, each one of these things are being driven by information or analysis of what happened previously. In the 2040
Yeah.
plan, or well, we're in what, the 2030 plan right now?
2040.
2040,
Yeah. Mhm.
the 2040 plan. So someone's analyzing the impact of the work that was planned during that time in order to set forth what's gonna be in the 2050 plan. Right?
That's a good question, and we can ask them when they come.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
yeah, we could ask them when they
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
The question for me is, how do I give any valuable input
Yeah.
on any of these things here if I don't know enterprise-wise
Yeah.
what has happened previously and what impact's being made?
Mhm.
How are they driving it? Because I know they have to, there was a plan that was put in place 2040, that aligned with some of this. And they have the beauty of examining, evaluating, and bringing forth what has happened, and then that then informs them on how they need to approach going forward in 2050. Or am I?
Mr. Chair,
Councilman.
I guess I would just say that, you're asking a lot of the same questions, of course, that the council
Yeah.
would ask. And it is going to be informative when you're able to ask those same questions of folks who are bringing this presentation forward. They may not have all of the information that you're asking for. It's my understanding, we have seen some glimpses, but the council has not yet seen a full report back on the 2040,
Yeah.
on the results of the 2040 plan. Policies
Today,
change and actions are dictated by these plans. And it may take longer than 10 years to really know
Yeah.
the results
Yeah.
of a lot of that. So we're in process of a plan. And I think they can give some responses, but, even while we're planning for 2050, we haven't reached 2040 yet.
Well, right.
So we just have to do the best we can to collect as much information as possible to inform the future. And I think that's very much in process, trying to understand how to keep up with, the knowledge of what has transpired as a result of planning.
Yeah, yeah.
But we know some of those answers.
Yeah, it was current time kind of things, and then you kind of shooting from the hip with suggestions about equity.
Well-
And it's okay if we have to do it that way, but that's willy-nilly, that is not shall. Those are not those things, because you don't have the quantitative information to basically drive what it is that you want to do around equity. And because equity is so important, it has to be shall, it can't be willy-nilly. And if we want to do what Michael says, just be, accept that that's the way it's going to be, then we're just going to fall right back into that with this whole work plan. If what we're not doing is looked at in a substantive type way, and we're just here, they come in and go, boom, give us your suggestions in the 20 minutes or 10 minutes or 5-minute presentation, and they walk away.
And it's thinking
Once we get-
sounds
Thank you
And
for
I'll
your
just-
suggestions.
We're gonna get this,
I'm sorry,
I'll
I'm
just,
sorry.
I'll respond to that. I agree with you, and we are trying to brainstorm how we create that ecosystem so that it's not just this outside committee where people feel like they just have to come if we route them. Most people come because they want to. We have a lot of conversations behind the scenes, but how do we really create that ecosystem so that the feedback that you give just flows? It just moves through the organization or the projects or whatever it is that's being presented. And we're in the process of trying to figure that part out as well.
And that's good. So I don't want you to think, well, people did come before our group and like a 999 said, we've already taken this to the council. And they came and gave us the presentation for our input, and it was almost like they came here on purpose to slap us in the face. Like, you're not really significant because the council's already approved this. And we got a few of those, 2 or 3 of those presentations last year.
And I think another thing, I
All
just say
right,
this.
okay.
I just say
Okay,
one thing, and I think another thing is that when positions change and people change, some of those things can get lost in the system. So how can we develop a structure that as those things change, we can study along the process
You're right.
and the work that needs to be made throughout this process, right? Because we're hearing you. We're
Okay.
giving you what you want, and we want to understand that this mission needs to move forward, not just for the committee's agenda, for the council-wide agenda as well.
Right.
So that the process of us listening and coming here and making this work plan and being a collaborative effort is to figure out how we can grow this committee.
Sure.
And also how we can understand how we can move that information within the council.
Good.
So that it is coming, all right? I don't want you to
Okay.
think that we're just sitting back and relaxing.
No, this is a
We're
huge
boots on the
improvement right
ground.
here.
I don't think that, and I appreciate all the work, especially going into this plan, because I know having done work plans myself, it takes a lot of creative thinking out of the box. What can be changed, what can be different? How do we make it different? And that's why I stress the importance of that language that says shall. Because as you move forward, that language of shall stays in that policy and procedure or in that process. People can come and go, but shall is always going to be
Yes.
there.
Exactly.
Thank you for that, yeah. We wanna make sure that we create a system that functions on its own, whether we're here or not.
Exactly.
And it has absolutely nothing to do with us as individuals, it flows, it
Absolutely.
moves,
Yeah.
so, thank you.
Good.
Alright, sounds good. Okay, so next thing on the work plan is the small business equity audit. And that will include listening sessions and engagement. We'll invite you all to those sessions as well. DBE and MCUB reports, that's been a big request from the committee, so we wanna make sure that we bring those more often. Also, same thing with procurement, updates, legislative updates, diverse spend plans, policy and template plans. Those are all things that we do in our office here, and we will be sure to route those to the Equity Advisory Committee, as soon as we can bring them here, so. And these are also, these are open all year long, so we'll figure out when to best bring them to the committee as they are requested or as they become available. That's right, I got it. All right. Next is the affirmative action plan. Same as the small business equity audit. Our office also leads that work. And so, there we go. Oh, bring it up a little bit more. All right. Okay, so plan process in June, dashboard updates, so we wanna bring any dashboard updates to the affirmative action dashboard. There's also human resources workforce data, that's been a desire or a request from the committee as well to receive more often, so we'll route that to the committee as well. OEEO HR work group priorities, we have an update to the discrimination and harassment policy that's in the works. That will also come to the committee soon, actually, as soon as that draft is completed and we're able to bring it here. And then within that, there's let's see. Yeah, that's the same. So, yep, that's all open for discussion because those dates are undetermined at this point, but we will route them to the committee as they become available.
And then I also want to say that as we do have some other subject areas that come up, we want to notify you not just a week before they come up. We're working on putting together a calendar that actually shows what's coming up a month in advance. So that you guys can understand what's coming up as far as what we're meeting about, not just finding out the week before. So that you can understand the information more and so that you can, get your questions together or your information together before the week.
Yeah.
To prepare you a little bit better. So just look out for some updates that's gonna come well before the next meeting in April.
Actually, I like that phrase.
Yeah, I like
Working
that
on, working on, working on.
Yeah.
We getting there, I'm listening.
All right, so last but not least is the enterprise equity. That is gonna include the equity policy updates. That is in draft form and that will be brought to the committee as well, once that draft is ready. We want an assessment of, what enterprise equity should look like. There are some thoughts and some ideas and a possible proposal. We'll bring that to the committee as well. And then council overview and a path forward, so an overview of kind of equity work across the council as we come across that as well. We'll route it to the committee, and that will be brought forth by the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity as well.
Mr. Chair, just one, is this where we could have division presentations? Each of the divisions, since it's enterprise-wide, so our major bucket divisions.
Yeah.
That would come in and present during this time frame.
So this is a little different than the division.
No, I understand, but
Yeah.
it ties.
Yeah, absolutely. So the divisions already present. So for example, I'll share with you Selena Martina from Metro Transit. She's the
Yep.
Equity and Inclusion Senior Manager
Yeah,
of
I know
Metro
she's
Transit.
presented, I'm talking about
Yeah.
this work plan.
Yeah, yes, so it would be under this bucket. So she would still come present and she does present. She presents though on transportation equity and all of those things,
Sure.
and then she shares things, yes. This particular category is more than just the divisions. This is that, how do we start to, that overarching, how do we pull this all together, right? That's all the work that goes under pulling it all together and creating that ecosystem. Very vague right now, very undefined right now, but there's a lot of bits and pieces in that. And those are the things that we want to come to the committee. Does that make sense?
No, it does make
Yeah.
sense. Help me understand something.
Yeah.
As I understand it, each one of those divisions have their own internal equity committee that kind of drive what they do from equity framework within the division.
Yeah.
We don't have any working knowledge of that.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking is, in this work plan, is there opportunity for us to have parks come before us around anything they want to, but also give us some orientation to their equity approach, their definition, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then even before we get into trying to define enterprise-wide equity, we have to have some working knowledge of all of the stuff that's happening internally.
Yeah.
So that we can get a sense of how all of that it can interconnect with each other.
Yeah. Because
right now, I mean, I'm sure you can pick it up and bring it to us, that would be fine. But it would also be nice to build a relationship with who's ever responsible for that within the division.
Yeah, absolutely. We can invite folks from the division to come and present. What I'm saying though is that they present. They come, so like Selena's presented, the ES folks have come and presented. But we can absolutely invite them to come and present a more focused, equity presentation or a share out.
Yeah, I think in this plan it would be more intentional.
Yeah.
Last year it was spontaneous.
Yeah.
I didn't know the students were gonna come until the day, couple days before the meeting.
Right.
And that was okay, but, I think it would give us some good working knowledge if we could have it be more proactive.
Actually, will help us understand, when they come with an approach. Then we could connect the dots as to why that approach is, because now we understand their version or their interpretation of equity. Is what they have working, which is a working knowledge of equity. That may be different from our approach, because we're not in the field, and they can help us understand some of their processes, and I think it will be great.
Some of them, I got reached out to by some to help review grant applications and attend other kind of meetings that they had, and I did a lot of that because I wanted to get a sense of what was happening within the
Yeah.
division.
Yeah. You can definitely,
We'll make them.
yeah, we'll make it happen.
I think that is helpful if we start building a relationship, a working relationship with people who are actually doing the work.
And then I would also say, Chair, Co-Chair, that, as we have those bylaws changes and we can have those subcommittees, there'll be more opportunities for us to bring more people to the table, right? Because there'll be more spaces that we can meet in and to understand how we can move these agendas forward past a 2-hour meeting once a month.
Yeah, and the subcommittee meetings will be utilized, I think, often by those equity folks as well. I know Selena and I had a conversation last week about this very topic, being able to come to subcommittee and maybe asking for more feedback and assistance through that space, so yeah, absolutely. Yes, and I would like to just acknowledge that there may be folks who are fasting. If you need to break your fast, please feel free to step away and take care of yourself, so. Alright. Okay, so some of the advising strategies that will be helpful would be strategic alignment, ensure that all advisory recommendations align with the key areas of focus outlined in the work plan for 2024, including regional development guide, equity, small business equity audit, affirmative action plan, and enterprise-wide equity. In-depth analysis, so conduct thorough reviews and analysis of the specific subject areas within the work plan, such as session engagement, DBE reports, workforce data, and policy updates to provide informed and strategic advice to the council. Now, this is actually something that we are trying to figure out the best way to allow that space. Right now with meeting, once a month for 2 hours, there isn't a lot of opportunity to go really in depth and do those, thorough reviews and analyze what it is that's coming in front of the committee. We're hoping through the subcommittee meetings in the future that we'd be able to really dig deep into those topics. At this time, people just come and present, right? But sometimes that additional context is important, right? And so that will be a space to allow for more understanding, but then also digging really deep and going to asking the questions that you need to ask and the work that you need to do. So collaborative engagement, foster collaboration and engagement within the committee to leverage diverse perspectives and expertise in addressing equity challenges and opportunities across the Metropolitan Council. This is where we really get to know what your interests are and your expertise and where you may want to be included and just participate more. Someone may have an interest in, maybe a niche area of transportation equity. And so being able to learn more about, what those strengths are and being able to partner you all with those areas to collaborate is going to be important in the future as well. Transparency and communication. We want to continue to maintain transparent communication channels within the committee to share information, updates, and progress, advisory activities, ensuring all members are informed and engaged. We want this to be kind of a back and forth, a two-way street, where we are continuing to communicate, but then also we have to figure out a mechanism where the committee can communicate with us and then with each other. Professional development, provide opportunities for professional development and training for committee members to enhance their knowledge and skills in equity-related areas, enabling them to contribute effectively to the advisory process. So what tools and support do you all need? We're hoping to be able to contribute to that support as well, so that folks can, can provide what it is that they come here to provide. Evaluation and accountability, establish. I forgot that. Sure. I'm looking at my laptop because I can't see that. So evaluation and accountability, establish clear metrics and evaluation criteria to measure the impact of advisory recommendations for achieving the desired outcomes and outlined in the work plan. We want to be able to follow the advice. So how do we do that? What metrics do we need to put into place? Those are some of the things that we're discussing as well. How do we ensure that this advice was taken? And if it was taken, what impact it had? And then also, if it wasn't taken, why wasn't it taken, right? So those are areas that we're evaluating as well. And that's the last item on our work plan. We are very, very open. This is again just a draft. And it will go through probably a couple more versions. We're very interested in feedback on this as well. And so, yeah, the floor is
Mr. Chair, you did a great job on this. You can see the thought. You was listening when you were saying, but no, it's very good. It is very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, I have a couple of quick things. First, as we were talking about engaging and all of this, I don't know if members of the advisory were invited to the State of the Region Friday.
Yeah, that's a good
question, thank you.
It's not too late to RSVP because I did today.
yes.
And actually, I guess we haven't had one for some time.
I was gonna say,
So we have a number of speakers from around the region. It's held at the Hopkins Theater, right on Main Street there.
Yeah.
They have a number of, over 100 people have registered already. You'll hear from the chair, you'll hear from Rita, the
Excellent.
vice chair. You'll hear from our new regional manager talking about what we've been facing this last year, where we're going. So it's a Friday morning. And so if we could get them all
Yeah.
an invitation, that would be
Absolutely.
great. So,
We
but even along, what's that?
Oh, I was gonna say, we can send out the information in an email update, so.
That's
Okay.
great.
And the others, when I thought of that, I was thinking, there's so many things like that we could be doing. And so if there's, when I run the Latino Chamber, we get, around Hispanic Heritage Month, we get asked for speakers and this, and mariachis, we get asked for about everything. And there's so many, if you look at the history just in this table here, there's so many things that we could do, speaking on behalf of our advisory committee, going to some of these smaller cities who really can't, or don't have a history with it, but don't have any resources, more importantly, to do that. And when we were talking earlier, since I've been here, is that's kind of the vision would be that we are the leaders within the region and moving this whole region along with equity. Especially where they don't have the history, or they don't have a civil rights department, they don't, and I think that's where this type of work can take us. So it's not just responding, it's not, 2040, but we have discussions at the meeting the other day, is that the data we had on ridership is gone. Because now you're gonna look pre-COVID, after COVID, where we are now, and some of the council members, I'm not gonna make a vote on this money until I know what the ridership is today on this route or that route.
Yeah.
So for us, looking at whatever numbers or you're looking at policies, it's not a problem to go back and ask and say, well, this doesn't seem right. It was like this years ago, but where are we going now? And I think that we have the talent around here. I don't know how long everyone's here been in affirmative action or something, but that one almost is that section you had is almost like legacy. It's, the OEEO, it's procurement, it's, and so those numbers we report on a quarterly basis. We have to do it. We kind of haven't highlighted them enough. To me, we just kind of let the history go and say, now we're over here looking at environment. Right. And we really move beyond kind of things, or not in a good way. And so I think that's what I look at and then I'm looking forward to the small business information we're getting from our research there, because I think that there's just a lot more in there that we could do as well. And I think I'm just self-interest here from the Latino Chamber. Some of the things that were asked for is were real important, and I think I'm again looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, and committee members. We will be coming very soon to the committee to give an update on the small business equity audit. And so that will be happening in the coming months. And there will be opportunity for feedback and input there as well, so.
Do we know if the Met Council is participating in the joint disparity studies with Keenan, the Keenan Research Group? They are.
Are we leading it?
We are participating in a disparity study. I do not, however, have information on who the vendor is. Perhaps.
Director of the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity, Chair, committee members, yes, we are participating in that joint disparity study. Yes, and it's being led by the Department of Administration, but we are a key partner as well.
Yeah, the group is Keenan Research Group, which did the last one in 2017.
And Ramsey County is participating.
Yeah, I think I sent something around to some people, just letting them know they were having public hearings were already underway.
I think in 2050 I'll be 100, I think it's right. I'll come back to the meeting.
That would be a change we have to adjust for.
Unfortunately, you'll be discussing the same things. And I gotta tell you, I was here 32 years ago at the Minority Advisory Committee meeting. There was a lot of that same.
Yeah, it does seem that
by
way,
that
right? It seems that way. But I've seen progress
Yeah.
in a lot of different places, I've been impressed with St. Paul in particular. Just, it's not bragged a lot, but they should. St. Paul's done some
I think our
incredible
RA
stuff.
comes from the city of St. Paul, right?
Huh?
Our new RA? Ramsey County. Oh, he comes from Ramsey County. Well, it's kind
And
of
Ramsey
St. Paul,
County too,
yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Yes.
just
Coupled with St.
go to
Paul.
Ramsey County website and just kind of take a look at the equity focus is cutting edge stuff. I know people outside of the state that look at a lot of things that's evolving in St. Paul and Ramsey County and wish they had it.
The difference is Ramsey County has just been quietly doing the
They
work.
quietly do it, yeah.
Whereas, for example, Hennepin, they just, we're doing this, where they're out there shouting it, but Ramsey has just got their head down and doing it.
They are.
And Hennepin is,
Communications.
yeah, Hennepin is, we wanna do this, we wanna do that, we're thinking of this, we're thinking of that. But Ramsey just does it.
It's being done. It's like, wow, you just look at it every year.
There's a lot of opportunity for that to happen here as well. There's a lot of amazing effort happening, but there's also a lot of opportunity for us to do that here, and I think that's my goal as the council's enterprise equity manager, is that we move towards that. We have lots of partners we can partner with and collaborate with, and everything we do should be to impact the region. So that's my goal.
Yeah, I know she doesn't like recognition, Cy doesn't, but you can see the market drive and improvement since she's taken over that seat. It's almost like night and day, so really. And I know all you guys do, but I can go back to the point at which she was hired as the director of that office and just seen everything just take off. We're not there yet, but it's definitely moving in the right direction at lightning speed too, so. And this is good, I like the work plan. I think this is a great start. Now, I should point out, the last work plan that was put together, we didn't have the staff. It was really one driven by the committee itself. And so this is really good.
And if there are any other council members in committee, if there's any other suggestions that you may want to see, just send those to us in the email, and we'll do our best to adhere to your desires and your needs.
And I think I would suggest for new people coming in, as we bring
usher in the new folks.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of these definitions, some of these strategies, advice and strategies here, 1 through 6. I think if we could have a description of what it looks like, feels like, and sounds like.
Yep.
It will be helpful, just for us as a team, as we look at this work, again, just to know, we're looking at number 6. For example, evaluation and accountability, what does that look like? If I'm on a committee, what does that feel like? When I see that word accountability, what does that mean for me versus what I think the definition is out there, right? Am I coming to hold people accountable, or am I coming to, what is that?
Or advise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can have some details
Absolutely.
behind some of these things will really help us as we move forward.
We will actually do another look through this, and we will tighten up the language, but make sure that, someone who doesn't know anything about what we do can read this and really understand it, so.
And I might
Yes.
add that as we bring in those presentations, which will be coming to us in each of these focus areas, that we should be mindful as we enter into the discussion as to where we are in their process. And they should understand what our intent is as we hear the material and as we're working through those advisory strategies. At what point are we today? Are we just hearing, or are we at a point of making recommendations? These are going to be repetitive visits, if you will, that will happen over time. So we'll hear something, we'll have the opportunity, hopefully, to digest and to think through, really talk through, and then provide some recommendations back. So everything doesn't necessarily happen in one fell swoop.
Right.
We should understand where we are and how we are being mindful of the strategies.
The last thing I would say, for me will be, once we get everyone on board, will it be possible for us to do a collective retreat? As a team,
Yeah.
build us up as a team
Yeah.
together where we can just sit down and get to know each other, get to understand the work and.
Yeah.
I think that's really
We are
important.
planning a retreat. We are hoping around June. We still need to figure out the logistics, but we are planning a retreat.
And in the works plan, in the addition to the structure work 2024, it kind of doesn't say it directly, but indirectly, that we're planning to work with the committee to strengthen it on just outside of the work plan, right? And focus on putting more effort within this committee.
And thank you for your work on a calendar.
That's what I'm here for.
You're working.
Yeah. If I could say something really quick, Michael, I think we all started at the same time. And I remember those first meetings, it was, a lot of people were there.
Oh, yeah.
But they were all saying the same thing. They come to the meetings, they get presentations, and then there was really no discussion.
That's right.
So the people before us felt like they weren't doing anything, but coming to meetings, listening to presentations, and then the advice was send us an email if you have any comments. Send the chairs an email. Well, how do you have a discussion if you just are able to send an email? So a lot of people were leaving then because they were just frustrated and said, this is not what I signed up for. But I think it's evolved into something of a work table is how I see it. I come here, I work, I'm thinking, I'm processing. And getting that information beforehand might be dangerous for me because then, it's all over.
Hey, back then we didn't
Sooner
even
than I
have
get
food.
it, sooner than I get it now because, but it will help me then process more, and if I have questions before then, I might send an email or something to say, explain this, but.
One of the chair and committee members, one of the biggest changes that we made based on the feedback that you all provided was this very topic, right? That it felt like people were coming in and just talking at the committee. We made some internal changes where we required presenters to come meet with us. So every time a presenter comes to the committee, they have to meet with us first, present to us. And then we help them come up with questions, and we talk about how they engage the committee and help prep them before they come to the committee. And that
You
has
mean warn
been-
them?
No, no, actually, we
Watch out for Edward
no,
McDonald.
we tell them to accept the
Believe me, that's not
feedback
far
and
off.
then take feedback. So, yeah, but that is one of the things that changed internally based on the feedback that we got from the committee. It wasn't last year, it was the year before that we started, so, yeah.
And Chair and committee members, I'll just say one thing, I did reach out to individually, you guys, to ask for one-on-one meetings. I'm
Oh,
waiting.
you have?
I have, I'll send that email back out.
Yeah, send it back.
Yes, I will
She
send that
did,
back out.
because
I
we
have-
played back and forth and then all of a sudden I was leaving.
Yeah, so, we still wanna do those one-on-one meetings with you guys to understand,
Sure.
that is more on a one-on-one personal level of your attendance and those big ticket items that we need to do to move forward.
Well, we have a little, get out a little early today. This has been a great discussion. I love the materials. I think everyone had an opportunity to add their, and as soon as they walk away, they're gonna think of more.
Yeah,
So,
please
No, you
let us
guys
know.
covered
Thank you.
pretty much
Thank you.
everything.
You did, this is really
Meetings
helpful to
adjourned.
me.
Very thorough. Thank you.
All right, thank